Hello and welcome to Cleveland Classic Cinema. Tonight's movie is 1957's The Giant Claw, directed by Fred F. Sears.
It's got one of the planes. It's coming after me.
Mitch.
That bird is extraterrestrial. Comes from outer space. From some godforsaken antimatter galaxy millions and millions of light years from the Earth.
Atomic hydrogen weapons capable of wiping cities, countries off the face of the Earth, are completely ineffective against this creature from the skies.
There it is now, attacking the United Nations building.
The bird's after us, chasing us. How are you doing? For God's sake, hurry, man. It's catching up with us fast.
I got a major problem here. What in the world can I possibly say after that? It's like following James Brown on stage. I watched that trailer and every bit of energy I had reserved for writing this intro just drains away. However, since I've mentioned this movie at least 3 times in different intros as an example of horrendously inept special effects and the humiliating result of appearing in a movie featuring them, I owe you all an explanation of how this particular piece of direct came into being. Besides, I won't get paid unless I do. Let's start with the plot. The movie begins with a rather tired-sounding narrator spouting off about flight and radar, and then we meet civilian test pilot / scientist / electronic engineer / radar expert Mitch McAfee and mathematician / systems analyst Sally Caldwell as Mitch tests a new jet or radar or something, and while zipping around, sees something as big as a battleship fly past him. He reports it to the field, and Major Bergen, the commandant, orders a fleet of fighters into the air to investigate. When Mitch gets back to the field, Major Bergen starts reading him the riot act about reporting something that the radar couldn't pick up and how one of the planes and its pilot has gone missing. Mitch gets understandably upset at being dressed down like this and tries to protest, but Bergen cuts him off, as does Sally, who's feeling antagonistic towards Mitch for buzzing the building she was in. The Major then gets a phone call that a passenger flight is missing as well, and that the pilot reported seeing a UFO before the radio went dead. That kind of takes the wind out of the Major's sails, and he sends Mitch and Sally back to New York. They never say where the field is, but I'm guessing it's in Alaska. On the flight back, something that looks like a feathery cloud attacks the plane, and they crash land somewhere in Canada. A local farmer, who has a hard time deciding whether he's French or Spanish, judging from his accent, rescues them and later sees that self-same feathery cloud menacing his horses. Pierre believes it's the coconia, a big bird that presages the death of whoever sees it. Neither one of them believe that, of course, and Sally makes it a point to get snarky with Mitch again. They leave Pierre to his own devices and hop a plane to New York. While on the plane, Mitch starts making out with Sally while she's sleeping, but when she wakes up with Mitch's face glued to hers, she seems to take it pretty well. This is a bit confusing, seeing as they seem to hate each other up until this point, but since this is the 50s, I guess it's okay. So planes are disappearing all over the place, and the FAA sends up a team to investigate. They're all wearing parachutes, which is good because they get attacked by whatever it is destroying the other planes. The bad thing about it is that while they're floating down to Earth, the bird eats them. This is the first real look we get at the monster in this movie, unless you've seen the trailer, of course. While I'm on this tack, let me say that I feel really bad for the actors in this movie. They didn't see the bird until the film was released to theaters. Columbia didn't have a cast and crew screening for them, and they had no idea what the monster looked like. Sam Katzman, the producer, had director Fred F. Sears describe the monster to the actors and had them act accordingly, and they were all expecting to see something that looked streamlined like an eagle, something more otherworldly and monstrous. Jeff Morrow, who enjoyed going to see his films at his local theater and then meeting moviegoers afterwards in the lobby, ended up slinking out before the movie ended, telling his family he'd meet them in the parking lot after it was all over. I've used this quote from Jeff Morrow in 2 other intros, but seeing as we're actually showing the movie it refers to, I'm going to use it one more time. I promise this is the last time I'll use it. He recalled, "We shot the film before we ever got a look at this monster that was supposed to be so terrifying. The producers promised us that the special effects would be first class. The director, Fred F. Sears, just told us, all right, now you see the bird up there and you're scared to death. Use your imagination." But the first time we actually got to see it was the night of the premiere. The audience could not stop laughing. We were up there on screen looking like idiots, treating this silly buzzard like it was the scariest thing in the world. We felt cheated, that's for sure, but they told us afterward that they just ran out of money. They couldn't afford anything but this stupid puppet. But it was just terrible. I was never so embarrassed in my whole life. As it turned out, Katzman had originally intended to have Ray Harryhausen design and stop animate the bird, but due to budget restrictions, ended up hiring a firm in Mexico City to construct the marionette they ended up using. He then decided to cut a few more corners by using stock footage from one of his previous productions, Earth vs. the Flying Saucers, as well as a few shots from 30 Seconds Over Tokyo. In fact, you can catch a glimpse of a flying saucer through the window of the Grand Central Terminal during the bird's attack on New York. As bad as I feel for the actors in this movie, I feel even worse for the ones that were in From Hell It Came. At least the actors in this movie had their imaginations to use. The ones in From Hell It Came had to act like act with the toboggan and pretend it was scary. This brings me to another subject. Why in the name of God did they show what that stupid bird looked like in the trailer? The whole idea of a trailer is to make you want to see the movie, right? They usually contain a couple of clips from the best scenes of the movie, just a little tease to whet your appetite, although these days they seem to revel in revealing major plot points. Anyway, what made the producers think that seeing the monsters they slapped together for this movie would make people want to pay money to see it? I can't imagine the camp value of it the numbers at the box office, especially since the concept of camp wasn't even introduced until the mid-60s. Jeff Morrow was born Leslie Irving Morrow on January 13, 1907 in New York City. He became interested in acting while studying art at the Pratt Institute and worked as a commercial artist while studying drama at night. He was a successful stage and radio actor, appearing many times on Broadway from the 1930s through the 1950s. He waited until his 40s to enter the movie business, his first film being 1953's The Robe with Richard Burton and Victor Mature. He continued in supporting roles until signing on with Universal, appearing in various costume dramas and science fiction films. He left Universal in 1956 and freelanced thereafter, appearing in films for other studios, and entered television in the early 1960s, appearing on many shows, including both the original Twilight Zone and the mid-80s reboot of that series. Jeff Morrow died on December 26, 1993 in Canoga Park, California. Mara Corday was born Marilyn Joan Watts on January 3, 1930 in Santa Monica, California. Her first taste of show business came when she was 17 and appeared on stage in Earl Carroll's Revue at the famed Showman's Theater. She was quite a popular model, eventually becoming a Playmate of the Month in October 1958. Her first film appearance was in 1951's Two Tickets to Broadway with Janet Leigh. Her film career more or less coasted until she was put under contract by Universal. She appeared in the horror classics Black Scorpion and Tarantula, as well as many westerns. In 1957, Corday married actor Richard Long, who she met on the set of 1954's Playgirl. She soon retired from acting to concentrate on raising her family, and she and Long remained married for 20 years, until his death, at which time she returned to acting mostly in cameo appearances. Today she runs her own production company, Argosy Productions. Morris Ankrum was born Morris Winslow Ankrum on August 28, 1897 in Danville, Illinois. He graduated the USC Law School and was an attorney and an economics professor before turning to acting, becoming a seasoned stage actor before appearing in more than 150 films, mostly westerns, until the 1950s, when he began being cast in science fiction films, usually as a military officer, policeman, or scientist. His first sci-fi film was Robert Libert's 1950 movie Rocket Ship XM, and he began appearing regularly in such films after that. Joe Dante, director and B-movie expert, is a big fan of Ankrum's, and in his 1993 film Matinee, had Kevin McCarthy playing General Ankrum in the movie within the movie, Mant. By the way, if you ever get a chance to see that movie, Matinee, don't pass it up. It was great. Morris Ankrum died of trichinosis on September 2nd, 1964 in Pasadena, California. So what did I think of the giant claw? Well, if it weren't for that idiotic bird, it'd be just another time waster. It's not particularly clever or exciting. It's pretty much filled with effects screw-ups like visible wires on the bird, plane switching from straight to delta wing aircraft between cuts, stock footage shown flipped left to right, and a few geographical errors, such as the plane Marty and Sally are in flying over San Francisco when they're supposedly in New York, and of course that whole French-Canadian Spanish accent thing. Oddly enough, the thing that makes this movie worth watching is the worst thing about it, the bird. It's just so cheap, idiotic, and ridiculous that it's entertaining in a bizarre way and redeems the other shortcomings of the film. That's not to say it makes it a good movie, however. There's absolutely no question that this movie is a dog, but it's worth seeing once just for the bird. So right now, sit back, relax, and get the bird as you watch The Giant Claw right here on Cleveland Classics Cinema.